Hello, class, and welcome to week 3 study hall. I'm still a bit under the weather, but we're hanging in here. So I hope that you all had a nice weekend and that all is well. Remember, this is the last final stretch of not only class, but of the program. So let's really push it and finish strong, right? Making sure we're getting all of our assignments submitted on time. And just doing our best to knock it out of the park. All right. Well, with that being said, this week is fairly simple. We've covered all of the possible substitutions, really focused on thinking about the technique of blanching in oil and not getting any color on those potatoes. And then continuing at that deeper fry for that delicious crispity crunch golden brown. Now, we kind of touched a little bit on molecular gastronomy as we left off in class on Wednesday. And I wanted to do a deeper dive into this as we were thinking about this, more peasant cooking, really kind of cooking with what's on hand and what the land gives you. And then this complete flip side to that, which is molecular gastronomy, absolute super fine dining, which has really during the 80s and 90s revolutionized the way we look at culinary techniques as we look at dining, what we see still present. I would say, something that I find fascinating is when these innovations started coming into play, 20, 30, 40 years ago, 30 really, they were not seen on the regular dining room table at a regular restaurant. However, we know trends have an impact on dining, right? Might take a long way to get to the common table, but it eventually does. And we see things like foams and sponges and corals and air and different terms being thrown out and showing up on, infused oils, right? Or thinking about caviar beads, encapsulated jelly bombs, right? Spherification. And at one point, this was really only seen at the top of the top. And now we see a machine that pretty much, you could buy for $100 and doing spherification gel and knocking that out at your own tasting if you'd like to. So let's take a little bit of a walk down this idea of molecular gastronomy, because I think it's important to tap into, because Spain really has been the frontier of that. We mentioned Ferran Adria and El Bulli, if you don't know much about it, take a look into it, because I'll show you, I'll get just the tip of the iceberg, and then you can take a deeper dive into that world. It is very fascinating. It's definitely not what I was called to do, and it was very mujust of trend when I was in culinary school in the early 2000s. It didn't resonate with me. I didn't feel like it was cooking for me. Cooking was, very much whole product utilization and understanding what a carrot tastes like, and utilizing the tip to the leaves. And on the other side of the thing was, well, let's, make an extract of this and dehydrate it, freeze it, and then bring it back to life in a balloon. And I thought, well, that isn't cooking to me. But with time and understanding of that craft, I have a ton of respect for it. It doesn't mean that I still would want to cook that way. It's, just as we as chefs and cooks develop our flavor profile, our style of cuisine, right? We cook something that resonates with us, right? Maybe it's maybe you've never had, you think about, oh, I grew up with my nonna, my Italian grandma, and I always fall back on those flavor profiles. Or I grew up in a household with really multicultural, and my mother was Jewish and my father was Korean, and we had the coolest dinners for our holidays because we were fusing the two. whatever it might be, right? Or maybe it's completely that, hey, you grew up with not, with loving X, Y, or Z, or not liking X, Y, or Z, or being vegan or vegetarian or on a farm or whatever it is. And that's what you usually fall into. So again, let's just pull up a little bit of this idea and concept of El Bulli and molecular gastronomy, because Spain really kind of threw it down. And I'll walk you through some of this because you'll see that it's very different from what we think about, gazpacho, right? Gazpacho, well, we're going to take our ingredients, mortar and pestle, we're going to grind those up and we're going to serve it. It's a cold, refreshing soup. Well, what happens when we take gazpacho and we put a molecular gastronomy spin on it? What does it look like? What does it taste like? Well, the essence, right? A lot of the molecular gastronomy, the essence of the dish is still there. Molecular gastronomy and cooking is about being whimsical and evoking flavors or textures or feeling like a child again, right? But putting a spin on it. So let me pull this up and think you'll appreciate this. Oh, there we go. So let's just start this off with 12 iconic dishes from El Bulli. So already we are seeing what some pretty wild stuff here. Okay. Now, as we can see, we start to go down here. Here's a gazpacho, a lobster gazpacho specifically. But when we look at gazpacho and we think, well, where's the soup? Okay. Well, I see the lobster, I see a tomato, we see whole herbs, and maybe something else is going on. This a brunoise, confit of other ingredients. And that's really how we start to see. Now, here's another version of this is coming in from 1992, granite, okay, which is essentially like shaved ice. So that is shaved ice, tomato ice with a sprig of fresh gammon, and hello, plant-based almond milk pudding. Now, almonds growing wonderfully in Spain, but would we, in 1992, was anybody making almond milk? Where was almond milk in the 1990s? Not necessarily on the table, but here it was. Okay. Here we've got a foam. Okay. This is interesting. This is a white bean foam, okay, with sea urchin. Obviously, if we switched out that sea urchin, we could be coming a little bit more plant-based, but that white bean, the creaminess, probably the velvety silkiness is what that shelf was after, right? Look at this. It was the search for a lighter texture than a mousse that could carry stronger flavors that led to the creation of foams, okay? And they could be the discovery was that they could be prepared using a cream whipper, right? So just like you make whipped cream, giving aeration to dishes, well, what if we infuse that cream with green beans? What if we infuse that cream with licorice? Now what do we get, right? And this then led to, as I meant, warm gelatin, frozen powder, air, spherification. And this is really what kind of started to change the looks and feel of what we thought of as dining, right? In this molecular gastronomic world. Here we go. This is a variety of vegetables and textures, right? Textured vegetables. I don't see a single whole recognizable vegetable on here, but there are vegetables hiding within this. Okay. So we've got, this is from the, flavor of the Mediterranean. I'm guessing there's going to be a pepper. Maybe is that a beetroot? Is that some type of green? Or maybe that's an olive. Is there olive oil on the base of here? Tomatoes, peppers. What else, right? Next, we look at this. Here we go. 2 ways of presenting chicken curry. Well, I don't see any chicken here, but I do see onion. Maybe this is a foam in a chicken flavored mousse. We've got, is that, coconut milk and the curry and are those spices incorporated into there, right? This is where we're looking at, thinking about breaking down, in this case, here we go. We see, chicken, apple, curry, coconut, and garlic and onion had gone down a completely different process and completely revolutionized, right? And texturally changed. Here's another one. We've got, going in for, a dish. Okay, here we've got the spice dish. Okay, well, what is this? We see spices here laid up gently. Okay, is this a broth? Is this a gelatin? What is it? Well, let's see. Okay, so here we go. New parameters were added to the introduction of the sixth scent. Okay, pleasure of the senses, intellectual appreciation of a dish, right? So playfulness. A green apple jelly serves as the support for 12 spices and aromatic herbs. So the names are revealed to the diner, but not their order. And so this is how you start to then guess, oh, I think this is that. Now we've got smoke and foam. Here we've got another classic one. I'm sure you've probably heard of the, 90-degree egg, which became super famous with ramen, right? And getting the perfectly cooked egg here. Well, here's this one, 60 and 40 degree. So maybe this is going to be cold and hot pea soup, right? And this idea of cool and heat. So the expression created by the contrast of temperatures between hot and cold liquid. Okay, so really looking at cuisine as beyond just the I'm eating a piece of lettuce or I'm eating food and I'm chewing, right? It's taking a bite of something and the texture is not what the texture we expect, but the flavor is there. We've got spherification, as I mentioned, right? The spherification, though this is coming in 3 different types of melon, right? That's probably watermelon. We've probably got cantaloupe being the orange, and then your regular old yellow melon here for a honeydew, okay? Perhaps where's the honeydew? That's what I'm thinking. Where's the little green one that we should have too? But again, the spherification utilizing sodium alginate, right? To make a gellifying process without making jelly, so to speak, but getting a gel-like texture, really kind of put the world on its toes, to say the least, right? Spherification is still very much present. We see this kind of idea of and concept of thaw, really early spring dish. What does that look like? What's emerging? Here we get into this idea of consommé, air, right? Sponge. Okay, so here's that sponge, here's land, here's earth. We've got textured sponge, we've got air that's going to be almost just dissolving in your mouth. Okay, and just all different, really interesting approaches. Here's another one, 25 creations that change the world of cooking. This does get a little bit, I'll put this in. This is kind of a little bit more vague, but this is going into these ideas of different products, okay? This is thinking about being preserved. There's that gel in tomato gratinée. So I'll put this in. I think this is pretty fascinating when we think about these types of foods and et cetera, et cetera. But the next other thing that I wanted to show you was actually this, if you have any interest in gel spherification. If you want to do any home practicing with molecular gastronomy, you certainly can. There are tools like this, okay? You can do them as simple as this, different spoons. There's another one that's very, it's a machine. I'm gonna try and, if I can find it. Yeah, I remember seeing this at the National Restaurant Association show a few years ago, and thinking, no way, $100, you get a spherification. This cranks out 700 pearls a minute. once again, we see this, you put in it's an automatic um, spherification tool, and just taking a look and seeing what you can do here. You see it comes with all these kits. You've got the gels, you can make drinks, you can make desserts, you can make balsamic pearls. You can think about, I think about when we look at something like caviar, right, or sushi. Well, what if you could take seaweed and make a really cool mock on caviar for your plant-based sushi, by utilizing taking instead replicating tobacco or caviar. Even if we're looking at it from a sustainability point, and even if we didn't need to necessarily make it plant-based, but we were looking at a sustainable point and said, hey, I don't want to, I want roe, but I don't want, and I want fish eggs because I like the crunch and the salinity of it, but I don't want to be taking roe from fish anymore. Can I get something that's similar to this? So some of these techniques kind of really open up a pathway for a lot of different ways to play with food and continue to grow your knowledge and base set. So class, if there are any other questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Do hope all is well, and we'll talk to you then. Take care. Bye-bye.